So picture this. A country holds a tense, even violent election. The official winner is declared. But the story doesn't end there. The main opposition leader goes into hiding, soldiers are on the streets, and an entire nation is just holding its breath. What happens when an election doesn't bring closure, but instead sparks a crisis? Let's get into it. And that brings us to these words from Bobi Wine, a name right at the heart of this whole thing. You can just feel the exhaustion and pressure in that quote, right? It's not a political statement, it's a human one. So how did a famous musician end up a virtual prisoner in his own house? To really understand what's going on in Uganda, you first have to understand the man who dared to challenge the country's longtime leader. Yeah, so before he was Robert Kyagulanyi, the politician, he was Bobi Wine, this huge music star. His journey from performer to presidential candidate was a huge deal. For a whole generation of young Ugandans, he really embodied this hope for something new. But then, after the votes were cast, his home stopped being a home. It basically became a prison. He told Al Jazeera he was completely surrounded by military and police, totally cut off from his family, and yeah, stuck in the same clothes for days. Now, this is a really key point. In Bobi Wine's eyes, this isn't just some standard post-election security measure. No, he sees it as a deliberate, calculated move to intimidate his supporters and to just completely crush his entire movement. Okay, so this whole personal drama with Bobi Wine, it's really just one piece of a much, much bigger story. A messy, disputed election that has split the country right down the middle. You know, the election itself was, well, it was anything but calm. The weeks leading up to it and following it were filled with protests, violent clashes. There was just this heavy cloud of tension and uncertainty hanging over everything. And when the official results finally came in, it was a name many Ugandans have known for a very long time. The incumbent, President Yoweri Museveni. He secured another term, extending a rule that has already lasted for decades. But here's the other side of the coin. From the government's perspective, this isn't about silencing a political rival. They argue that Bobi Wine and his supporters aren't just questioning the results, they're actually trying to throw the whole country into chaos. And so, what you're left with are two completely different realities, two conflicting stories about what actually happened in Uganda, and they simply cannot both be true. So let's break it down. On one side, you have the government saying, hey, the opposition was planning riots and we're just keeping the peace. But on the other side, the opposition is saying, no way, the election was stolen and this isn't keeping the peace, it's a crackdown to shut us up. I mean, just listen to President Museveni's own words here. He calls the opposition confused people and says he's just trying to restore sanity. It's a very clear way of framing it. He's the one in control, bringing order to a threat he already knew about. But Bobi Wine fires right back. And he's not just using strong words. He's claiming he has actual evidence. He's saying, we have them on video. And suddenly, this isn't just about he said, she said. It's about potential proof. And his claim is incredibly serious. He's alleging that there is video footage of officials from the Electoral Commission, you know, the very people supposed to guarantee a fair election, literally stuffing ballot boxes for the president. I mean, if that's true, it undermines the entire result. So, beyond all the political maneuvering and the power struggle, this whole conflict has had a very real, and honestly, a very tragic impact on ordinary people. Because that's what always happens, right? When these political tensions boil over, it's rarely the people in power who pay the highest price. Right across the country, protests erupted, and they were often met with force. What started as political disagreement turned into running battles on the streets. And tragically, in all that chaos, people died. And this just cuts right through all the noise. These are the words of a mother named Oliver. Her son wasn't even a protester. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, killed by a stray bullet. Her words, he died for no reason. That's the real human tragedy here. And what's just so unsettling is that nobody seems to know for sure how many lives were lost. The official numbers are vague, and that fact alone tells you everything you need to know about the fear and chaos on the ground. So, with the official winner declared, but the opposition flat out refusing to accept it, the whole country is basically stuck, asking one single question. What on earth happens next? Well, from his house, Bobi Wine isn't calling for calm.
He's calling for action. He's urging his supporters to reject the results, to take charge, and to reclaim what he's convinced is their stolen victory. And he's suggesting people protest in what he calls numerous creative ways. So, yeah, that could mean marching in the streets, but it could also be symbolic things, like holding the national flag up high, or even a massive act of civil disobedience, like everyone just staying home from work. But for all the calls to action, the dominant feeling for so many regular Ugandans isn't defiance. It's fear. Fear of more violence, more instability, and just a deep, profound uncertainty about what the future of their country is going to look like.
So right now, Uganda is a nation living in two parallel realities, with millions of people caught right in the middle. The path forward is anything but clear, and the real question isn't just about who won, but whether a nation so on edge can find its way back to some kind of peace.